New research shows that herd immunity doesn't even work with the flu shot. Flu shots are inactivated and contain particles of different strains of flu viruses. Vaccines like this do not make T cells towards the virus, which is the most important aspect of protection against different strains of influenza. So this study by Hayward, I have PMID numbers on all of my studies. That means you can go and look them up yourself and read them on the PubMed internet site. So this study by Hayward looked at 1,400 unvaccinated people and followed them over a flu season. And the results of this paper will startle anyone who thinks flu shots help the community or the individual. In Hayward's analysis, T cell levels and antibody levels were measured both pre and post-infection. And 43% of this unvaccinated population that was studied had baseline T cell responses against influenza. And this is really important because it's the T cells that protect you from multiple different strains of flu virus and help you the most. This study found that the unvaccinated had really high cross-protective responses to other flu strains, and that only 1/3 of naturally immune people, when infected, shed virus after their infection. A 2/3 reduction of viral spread is a big deal. It's a 66% efficacy for doing nothing, as they pointed out. It's an important population-level effect. Remember that viral shedding is associated with disease severity and infectiousness. So here we have the ironic situation where it was the people with natural immunity who had an important population-level effect, not the vaccinated people. What makes this situation worse is that the T cell responses are the explanation for non-spreading asymptomatic infections, not the antibodies. The antibodies these people had were not close enough matched to protect against circulating strains. So let's think about it. Who is protecting the herd better? Those with specific antibodies or those with T cell cross-protection? These studies listed here all show that vaccinated children are worse off. Unvaccinated children develop T cell immunity that is comprehensive. Vaccinated do not. The vaccine, as I said, prevents CD8 T cell immunity. Unvaccinated children are better protected against multi-strain flu viruses than vaccinated children. Unvaccinated children have a higher likelihood of asymptomatic infection and shed less virus. Unvaccinated children have higher numbers of cross-reactive and specific CD8 T cells. Vaccine antibodies prevent this. Unvaccinated children are less susceptible to yearly flu infections than vaccinated children. They have a lower risk of pandemic infections than yearly vaccinated children, and it says so right in these articles. So the reason vaccinated people in general are worse off is that the virus-specific flu antibodies don't recognize other types of virus. And we know that you hear every year how the vaccine is not a good match for the circulating strains, right? Now, if it was 100% match, that would mean that that vaccine could protect you from this year's flu. But it's still going to put you at a disadvantage in the future unless every year they get a perfect match and you get the vaccine. Virus-specific T cells, on the other hand, do recognize other types of flu viruses. And we also have something called innate natural killer cells that don't require any sort of previous infection or vaccination that protect you. And what we have is the conclusion that vaccinated animals suffered more from a challenge infection with a highly pathogenic virus than those not vaccinated. So they've studied it in animals on purpose, and they've looked at it in humans and noticed the same thing is true. And what we have here is a form of original antigenic sin, which means that the first way a person experiences an antigen is how the body will respond afterwards. And if the first way is the wrong way, then every time afterwards, the immune system won't work properly. And this is detailed very well in the book. So this is why vaccinated animals suffer more when new flu strains infect them. And the punchline of the paper is, inactivated vaccines induce virus-specific CD8 lymphocyte responses inefficiently. And annual vaccination with this type of vaccine may even interfere with the development of virus-specific CD8 lymphocyte responses, otherwise induced by natural infections. Now, someone with intelligence might ask this question. Since vaccines create an inefficient immune response, which interferes with the CD8 T cell response, which according to Canadian research puts the vaccinated person at risk of pandemic or other flu infections, what else could happen? Is there any benefit to the vaccine? If the vaccine compromises community immunity, why are we insisting that medical staff get flu shots to create herd immunity? Why do sick patients get injected with a vaccine that has such a dubious immunological priming the minute they walk into a hospital?